Let there be shooters.
March of 1966 was when the Silver Surfer had made his Marvel Comics debut, first appearing in Fantastic Four issue number 48, where he saves his homeworld from the planet Devourer, Galactus. During the 80s, this metallic hero wasn't nearly as popular as other iconic Marvel characters, such as Spider-Man or the Incredible Hulk, and as a kid, I often confused him with Iceman. But in 1990, the Silver Surfer starred in his very own video game for the Nintendo Entertainment System, developed by Software Creations, and published by Arcadia Systems. Silver Surfer is a shooter that combines horizontal and vertical scrolling stages, alternating in each of 6 worlds, before concluding with a third side-scrolling one. Like Mega Man, the game allows you to select whichever order to conquer each of the first 5 worlds, represented by one of the Surfer's arch-nemeses. Unlike the Blue Bombers games, the order in which you play these stages are insignificant, so I always go with the default. You begin the game with 5 lives in tow, 1 smart bomb, and a standard shot. This can be upgraded to a maximum level of 5 by collecting the F power-up as indicated in the HUD, increasing the rate of fire along with doubling the damage inflicted by the regular bullets. Orbs can also be collected to augment Silver Surfer's firepower by providing an additional stream of projectiles. 2 of these can be carried at a time, although only 1 is present during the horizontal stages. The B button shifts the position of the orbs to 3 different formations. During the vertical levels, they default to firing ahead at an angle to provide a 2 to 3-way shot and can be repositioned to fire from the surfer's sides or behind him. The side-scrolling ones allow you to shift the orb to fire ahead, below, or behind. I found that I didn't use this mechanic all that often, but did find it very useful at certain points of the game, unlike the speed power-up, which I swear only increases how fast you can move for a limited amount of time. I usually don't bother collecting these at all. The majority of stages end with a generic mid-boss, if you even want to call him that, as they are more often than not just a regular enemy requiring more hits to kill than your average baddie, surrounded by lackeys. As I had mentioned before, the third stage of each world is a side-scrolling affair, concluding with a boss fight? I guess you could call these bosses, but I found them to be extremely easy to kill. Is this little thing Firelord? Cause you can extinguish him as effortlessly as a cigarette butt. What I really like about these bosses, though, is that they represent each world with an avatar in the HUD. You have Reptile, Brett the Hitman Hart.
It took me a long time to get this far, and I'm not gonna lose to you.
And even King Diamond as ruthless villains. While I find the graphics to be a bit average overall, the aesthetics on the other hand fit the game well. There are space levels where Silver Surfer can descend underwater, inhabited by vicious rubber duckies, Greek-inspired stages with statues of gods and rising columns, and even a castle-like motif loaded with doors from which ghosts escape, complemented by walls emblazoned with faces. The problem with some of these details, however, make it so that flying into hazards on accident becomes a common occurrence. It can be hard to differentiate background details versus what can be collided with. Simply grazing Silver Surfer's scrotum against a wall will kill the dude. When I first started playing the game, I thought if I touched these guardrails it would spell certain doom, making this part unnecessarily brutal. I soon discovered though, that if your bullets pass through, so can you, and if not, don't do it. But crashing can be inevitable in the heat of the moment.
Fuck!
The angry video game nerd gripes about how difficult it is to avoid all of the danger zones in Silver Surfer. False. If you haven't played the game very much, you too may come to this conclusion. I found the enemy patterns extremely simple to decipher, not to mention many of their movements are marred by rudimentary AI and general limitations. Sticking to just one side of a stage often keeps you in the clear from many of the adversaries encountered, simply because they will never reach you, or because their bullets just don't fire within your range. The first stage of Reptile is a perfect example of this, as you can just stay in the bottom half of the screen undisturbed by the myriad of lizard men who soar right over you. You can also fly underneath these gun turrets without ever having to worry about getting shot, as their projectiles only fire ahead horizontally. The enemies' patterns are all predictable for the most part, except for these damn jack-o'-lanterns. They are the bane of my existence.
This game just went way too far. The difficulty is legendary. This is the grand champion of hard motherfucking games.
False. Now, I'm not saying that Silver Surfer is an easy game, cause it's not. But it's not as difficult as its reputation would lead you to believe. Sure, you're gonna die. A lot. But like with any challenging shooter, repetition and memorization is the key to success. Knowing exactly where enemies are going to come from, taking them out as soon as they appear on screen, and positioning yourself to do so will ensure that you'll have a good time. Of course, dying repeatedly is the best way to learn the game, and while your weapons are reset to the default each time you lose a life, Silver Surfer has checkpoints and graciously affords you the opportunity to earn extra lives with every 100,000 points accumulated and by collecting the Silver S icons. On top of that, you get 4 continues, so you have plenty of chances to learn and memorize the game. And once you recognize your progression each time you play Silver Surfer, it gets quite addictive. You also have smart bombs at your disposal, and a maximum of 5 can be retained by collecting B icons. These are ideal for getting out of a jam, especially when you need to squeeze through a tight fit, or for annihilating the few enemies who boast of erratic patterns in their repertoire. My only complaint is that in order to detonate a bomb, the select button has to be pressed, meaning that I naturally take my left thumb off of the D-pad for a split second to hit it, rendering me motionless. I'd prefer my explosions to be mapped to the start button, but meh, it's not that big of a deal. I also recommend using a turbo controller, as this shooter is the type that practically requires you to constantly fire throughout the entire thing, as enemies come hurtling at you almost non-stop, needing multiple hits to kill. It's not worth putting your wrist, thumb, and forearm through hell for a 30-year-old archaic shooter when the standard for the genre having rapid fire had already been established around the time of this game's release. Frankly, I think it's fucking stupid to do so. But then again, it was dumb as shit to put my thumb through hell all for a damn gold trophy in 1942.
What'd I say before? This game's not bad? Well, no, it isn't bad. It's fucking horrible!
False. Silver Surfer is one of the better shooters on the NES. It's known for being one of the hardest games on the system, but honestly, it's not all that difficult with practice. Boom! No death run. There you have it. It's also known for having a killer soundtrack, and that's no exaggeration. Composed by Tim Follin and his brother Jeff, these intricate tunes are bumpin'. It's just a damn shame that there are only 2 stage themes throughout the entire game, and 1 awesome title screen number. Shameless plug time, that song made my top 10 list of NES title screen music as voted by the viewers, and rightfully so. Check it out. The music is just one of the things that makes Silver Surfer so great. You can also take turns with a buddy by pressing the select button at the title screen, and once you beat it, you're given a password for some additional goodies. Pressing up on the D-pad of both controllers takes you to the password screen where you can enter codes to access a variety of extras, including invincibility and unlimited continues. Pretty nifty. Plus, the game offers a challenge that is not at all unfair, and with practice and repetition is very beatable. The hardest thing about it is putting the controller down. Yeah, the bosses kinda suck, but it is by no means a deal breaker. Just make sure to snag a copy before it gets too expensive, cause the price has been going up on this one. Don't allow its misguided reputation by the angry video game nerd to dissuade you from Silver Surfer. It is a shit ton of fun, and I highly recommend it.